Hi, welcome to Weekly Wildlife Wisdom. It's Georgia Bow here, and sorry I'm a little bit late, normally bang on time, but I've just been setting up, and I'm really excited to be back here for part 2 of Fox Wisdom, which is all about the invisible realms. So a number of you from last week seemed interested in hearing more about my own personal way of working within myself and to connecting to the invisible realms to help me to learn and grow and move forward on my spiritual journey, tied very much into my practical day-to-day life. So I'm a little bit uneasy about it, but I've asked for support and guidance, and I'm going to share with you a little bit more about that, and linking that into, clearly, because this is all about wildlife wisdom, linking that into fox wisdom because of who they are and the energy that they evoke in us when we connect with them to our hearts. And that is very much about having, in the fox's case, a paw in each world, a paw in this physical world, and the way that their life and their natural laws accord them a living, and how they need to adapt in order to survive and thrive, but also that they are very, very closely connected to the other world, the alternative dimensions that we can't see, touch, feel as in this physical world, but that very much are there. And I said this last week, but I think it's worth reiterating. This is my personal set of beliefs and what I've learned and understood, and I'm really happy to share this. But this is not me saying this is what you should do, or this is the way to do it, or this is certainly not this is the only way, because I just don't buy into that at all. I think everybody finds their own way, and you find a way that resonates most deeply for you, or not. Some people choose not to engage at all, and that is, your personal choice. So I'm going to share. Good morning. We've got Isabella here. Hi. She's saying good morning. Well, it's morning here. Yes, it's afternoon here, but we're just at 2 o'clock, so we're not too far in front of you. Finally, I made it to a live presentation. Woohoo. Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. It's lovely to have you. And I know you're gonna watch later. So welcome, Susie, at the replay. And everybody else, if you're tuning in, welcome. If you're watching the replay, then you're equally welcome, and the energy is just the same. So if you have any questions or anything you'd like to add in, please feel free, and I'll keep an eye on the chat live and respond as I can. But also with the replay, I'll keep an eye out for comments, and I promise to get back to you as soon as I can with anything. So I'm going to dive in, and I'm going to start off with a quick recap on last week, because the fox last week was sharing the knowing, the ability to choose in the physical world when we are visible and when we are not visible or less visible. And I think that's a really important part of being in the physical world, knowing that we can choose how we exude our energy in our surroundings, and when we are wisely using that for a higher purpose, for something that is serving something bigger than just our own needs, it's very, very valuable and a skill well worth developing. And I think that was the sort of main theme of last week, whereas this week, as I mentioned at the start, what we're going to do is dive into my personal practice, not in any personal detail, but as an overview, to just give you a flavour, because I know I've worked over the years with people that have their own unique way, their own beliefs, that may or may not connect to certain types of traditions. And I think it's interesting to hear and learn of other people's practices. So I hope you find this useful. And I'd invite you to consider your own personal practice. I find that I do have to cajole, encourage myself to do my practice, and it doesn't happen as often as I might necessarily like. So there is that element, a bit like I say, people going to the gym to get fit. Sometimes you have to really sort of give yourself a little bit of a momentum push to keep going. I think sometimes it's just parts of us that can get a little bit frightened of what's going to come forward. What am I going to be shown, or is it going to be something frightening that I don't want to confront? And there's a little bit of that dance certainly within me going on. But this is what happens, roughly speaking, as I connect with the other world, and I'll just walk you through it. So just let it sort of soak in. You might be thinking, well, it's similar to me, or it's completely different to me, or you might have some questions. Feel free to ask those, or just absorb and have a ponder and do what you need with it. Take what you like and leave the rest, as I always say. So the first thing that I always do is that I establish a safe space. Here in my little art studio also doubles up as my healing space as well. So I have a little altar which is full of various artifacts that I've collected over the years, that's set up in a energetic line with a candle, and I have some smudges as well. I have beautiful white sage, and also some now I'm going to say this the right way around, probably not now that I've just pre-framed, Palo Santo or Palo Alto, I can't remember. My brain sends me the strangest things these days, but it's that beautiful wood that you burn, and it smells amazing. To help me to just set the intention of a clean and clear connection that is protected. So I do work in here, but I also can do it when I first wake up in the morning as well, in bed, where I will set a sacred space. So the way that I do that is connected with my roots of the Celtic traditions, and I basically invite in and invoke and request the presence with deep respect of the four directions. And associated with the four directions, I'll point them as they are here. The east is the hawk, so I invite and request the protection and guardianship of the hawk of the east, which is the element of air, and it's connected with dawn and the spring. And then I invoke the stag of the south, which is the summer and fire and the midday sun. And then I request and invoke the protection of the salmon, the great salmon of wisdom, the most ancient of all animals in the Celtic tradition, of the gloaming, of the waters, of autumn and of twilight, and of the west. And I invoke and ask for their protection. And then finally, I ask from the north, the great bear, who is the bear of the earth and of midnight and winter. And I ask them to hold the sacred circle and space for me. And I imagine and visualize around me a golden circle of light that protects me and holds this container for me to work safely from. And that's really important. It's also a beautiful way to connect in. And I often include the sun and the moon and all of the celestial bodies as well in that, and ask them to hold and help me to hear from my heart my guidance for the day. So I start off there, and for me it's always about deep respect, deep honouring, not an expectation or a command, but a humble request for assistance, and honouring who they are and all of my ancestors, guides and angels of the light. So I hold that in the space as well. And then I take myself on a very familiar journey, which for me I imagine walking, I have my eyes closed, and I imagine walking towards this beautiful ancient oak tree, which is very sacred to the Celts. And there are lots of very old oak trees around here, so it's very easy for me to connect to them. And I imagine that there's a beautiful carved door in this oak tree that I always go to, and I open the door, step into and through into the other world, and then I close the door behind me, and then I walk onwards. So for me, I'm walking into the forest and coming down to a clearing where I meet with my personal Celtic guide. I'm not going to give too much detail because I think that's private to each of us, but I commune with them. And for me, what's important is when I go in, I have something in mind that I'd like to bring and request assistance from, and I try and make that as clear as possible. It doesn't always work that way. I can get distracted a little bit, but I try and have an intention, and I ask them for their assistance and their guidance. And we'll sometimes sit and talk for a while, and I'll just allow that to flow. It might be that certain beings may come and offer information, and I just, again, deeply respectfully listen, pay attention, and stay in that space and stay breathing nice and calmly, and allowing that to unfold. And then sometimes my guide will suggest that we go and visit with some of my other guides, or another being of light that that would be helpful, and we will do that. Sometimes we journey together. It might be a sense of flying together, or being together, walking together, however that shows up, and it varies from time to time, but there is a general pattern. And it's also, about connecting with this being. They're not human, obviously, and they are of the other world. For me, it's just about staying connected from a authenticity place and from being genuine and honest, and letting them know about my fears, my anxieties, my doubts, my questions, as much as what I would like to be doing, and asking for guidance around whatever it is that I'm asking for. And then I'll spend time with whoever else it is that wants to be there, and sometimes it can be my most known to me and the deepest relationship guides that I have, and other times it can be unusual, unknown to me guides that will come in and give me direction. And then once I feel as if that is complete, and I get that sense just by how I'm feeling, whether it feels like things are starting to draw to a close, I just trust my intuition on that. I then thank everybody who are there, people, beings that I have connected with, that I've not necessarily had a direct link within that journey, but that I want to thank. And then I will respectfully bow out, and I always return by myself back through the same walk. And then I open up my door, step through, and then close that door. And then I come back, and I reconnect in reverse order with the Great Bear of the North and thank him for his protection and for his love and guidance. And then the Salmon of the West, the Stag of the South, and then finally the Hawk of the East. And then I imagine that circle dissolving. And again, for me, that's really, really important that you open up that space, but also that you close it down fully as well. And then when I come back into wakeful awareness, for me, I make sure I've got enough time to just have a little way of grounding myself, which can be just getting up and having a walk around. I grab my journal and I write down anything that I need to remember that my unconscious mind might start just taking away if I'm not quick to write it down. So I do that. Isabella's saying, that's so lovely. I like hearing and reading about Celtic traditions. There's some similarities with the Native American, yeah, and their reverence for the natural world. Yeah, I really agree with that, Isabella. And I think I've been fortunate enough to speak with and know people from different parts of the world with very different traditions. There are a lot of commonalities there, which for me, way back then, it doesn't tally that they would have known each other. They certainly wouldn't have the connections that we have in today's world. And yet this commonality of, respect, deep respect and honouring of the natural world and the laws of the natural world of balance and equilibrium are very, very central to many of the traditions. And for me, I always felt like the truth of the Celtic tradition really made sense to me right from when I was a little girl. And when I have talked to others about their traditions, I can feel that as well. So for me, it really resonates that nature is part of this stunning co-creation. It is what co-creation is all about, and we're a part of that. And yeah, it really, really speaks to that truth. So I'm really pleased you enjoyed hearing a bit more about that. So so thank you for that. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to add in. I think that's probably enough to share today about that, but I'm happy if you have any other questions or anything that you want to ask over the next few days. I'd love to come back to anybody on those as well. And I think for me, it's really about holding a good intention in your heart and asking for help. There is one other thing that I add in, which I know some traditions don't seem to, but it feels like something I need and want to do, and that's that I invite healthy ancestors, guides, and angels in to assist me, because it makes sense to me to have a discernment about that. I know some people would disagree on that, which is absolutely fine. But that's just how I do it. It's not to say I don't want to hear the tough messages and the challenges and the invitations to step through some of the shadowy parts of my wounding, because I understand that that's really needed. And that our shadow work is for me in many respects more important than the light work that we do, because if we avoid it and we bypass it, we're missing the opportunity to heal those places in us that cause us, for whatever huge array of different reasons and experiences or past life experiences, however they come about, connections from ancestors that we've never even met, they need to be released and cleared as much as we can in our lifetime. I think it's an ongoing thing. I don't think we finish doing that. So I think that's something that I acknowledge, and yet I wouldn't readily be inviting in guides that are, for want of a better word, which is interesting because it's often used with the fox, is sort of that trickster, sort of not quite sure if they're doing it for the best and highest good. I wouldn't want to be inviting that in, but that's me personally. Isabella's saying, have you seen Fox since the last session? I haven't. No, not yet. I mean, I'm always keeping my eye out, but they've gone very invisible. But as I said in the last one, it's very, very rare that we see foxes here now, which is very sad in itself, which is why it's so thrilling when we do see them. So to see those two in the last week of couple of weeks ago, because obviously I wasn't here last week because I wasn't well, sadly, but was just very, very poignant, and I think pointing to the importance of the message from them. So I don't know, do you see foxes where you are, Isabella? I'd love to hear. I know around the world there are lots of different types of fox as well, which is fascinating to me, the different colourings and their specific messages. I'd love to hear if you have a chance to let me know. So there we are. I'm going to round that up for Fox Wisdom, because that's quite a lot, isn't it, over the 2 weeks. So I hope you will be able to just absorb that and let that settle within you and have a think about what that means for you. and how you engage. And I really just encourage you. I've met a lot of people over the years that are maybe slightly reluctant or frightened of connecting with the other world. And I would say, as long as you hold a positive intention, a positive meaning for what you're doing, and you are very respectful, look for and ask for help to understand the best way for you to do this work, because I believe you need a framework that gives you a safe space, a safe container, a ritual to follow that gives you this protection and this holding in a place that allows you to be comfortable and safe when you're in this space. And then gradually discovering your guides and asking to meet them, and developing those relationships over time. And like any relationship, I'd say, don't just jump in and expect to be, ask for help. You need to be building a relationship with them, sharing more with them about you, who you are in your wholeness, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and just building that trust and deep respect for them, which I think is really important. And take your time with it. It's not a tick box thing. It's taken me years and years, and I think I'll carry on learning, hope so, how to be more effective at this, living in both worlds and benefiting from it. Isabella's saying about foxes, unfortunately it's extremely rare. I think the area is not conducive, or they just know to be secretive and avoid cars. Yeah. Coyote is more prevalent. Yeah, wonderful. I think they're quite similar, their energy, to fox, aren't they? But they have a different thread of their energy which comes through, which is also very, very beautiful. More adapted to the urban areas than the fox, I believe. Yeah. No, I get that. And I love them as well. I think they're beautiful. I've been lucky enough to have some close encounters, actually. One in Namibia, of all places. Was it a coyote? It might have been a jackal. I do get them mixed up. I think it might have been a jackal. Very close. I was in a little tent in the desert, and I was just falling asleep, and this jackal came right up to the edge of my tent, which I only had the little thin outer on because it was very mild. And he or she stood next to me for quite a while, and it was absolutely magical. But they are very special. So yeah, how lovely. And yeah, shame you don't get to see. Again, you don't necessarily need to see them to connect with them. You just hold them in your mind, in your heart, and you can tune in. I'm sure you know that anyway, Isabella. But yeah, so there you are. I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for listening. And like I say, if you have any questions, let me know. If you know anyone else that you think might enjoy these sharings, then please do put them in this direction, and I'll be letting you know next week, all being well as usual, who will be coming next week for Weekly Wildlife Wisdom to share. And I'll pop that up on here and on Instagram as well, just to let you know, usually around Wednesday. So lots of love. Hopefully see you next Friday, all being well, and take really good care of yourself in the meantime. Thank you. Bye for now.